Thank you very much. There we go. My name is Kris Andreychuk. I'm here from the city of Edmonton. Just for some context, Edmonton, Alberta, Canada is over 8,200 kilometers from Belgrade. It took me 20 hours to get here. This is a trip and an opportunity that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the generosity and interest of DSC Europe. So I just want to start by expressing my gratitude to them for making this possible. I'm really humbled to be here on behalf of the team. And thank you for being here. There's some excellent talks happening right now. I appreciate you choosing to spend your time here with me this morning. For context, where I come from, Edmonton is Canada's 5th biggest city. We have a population of just over 1 million, and we were just named one of the most important destinations in the world by Lonely Planet Canada, just in time for me to come here and tell you that. I thought that was very generous of them. We are a winter city. This is a picture of me walking to get the airplane. It's not true. We are a festival city. And we're also a beer city. We've had an absolute explosion in beer culture, so much so that we just renamed one of our streets, which was 99th Street, Happy Beer Street. And this is home now to an incredible group of breweries, including Sea Change, who you'll see pictured here, which is one of my favorites. We're also a data science city. Last year, McGill University, which is a university in Eastern Canada, named us the top public sector data science program in the entire country, based on the amount of AI deployments that we've had that we've operationalized since we were founded. This is something that we are, of course, fiercely proud of, and it sets the tone for the talk that follows, because it's going to be focused on how we got here over the past 4 years. Here is our team here. We've since added another senior data scientist, but just to give you an idea of what we look like, we were formed in 2021 as the result of a corporate reorganization that sought to take data science, which was throughout the corporation, and centralize it. So now we have one centralized data science team. The result of that 4 years later is whether you are in the fire department or you are with the city manager's office, you have an opportunity to collaborate with our team to solve a problem that you're up against and to improve the life of the public. As a team, our brand or our strategy is really focused on 3 main elements. Firstly, we are problem-oriented, so we think about what is the problem we're trying to solve as opposed to what is the solution that we're looking to take advantage of. We are a pragmatic team, so once we've established that problem, we're not chasing the most technologically advanced or the newest, greatest technology to solve that problem. It's really focused on what is the most practical solution to the pressing problem. And then lastly, we have a bias towards action. So when we're building something, it's always a question of who or what will change as a result of this project. Because data science without action is like a book that's never read. Although our content is really diverse, so we work with teams across the city of Edmonton, our objectives are clear. We're in the business of making money, saving money, improving reputation, saving time, and reducing risk, all the while ensuring that the work that we're doing is in line with the direction of the organization. We take this very seriously, so much so that this is actually how we prioritize a project. If data science and research were a genre of music, I would say that we're the punk rock of data science. This is a team that is scrappy, authentic. Out of curiosity, show of hands, does anyone recognize anyone in the photo here? No, this is a legendary Edmonton punk rock band, SNFU. Any opportunity that I have to reference punk rock in a data science presentation, I absolutely take advantage of. So this is all very exciting, but there's a problem in data science, and there was a problem for us. When we were formed in 2021, this study came out that showed an extremely low bar when it comes to operationalization. Only 36% of respondents in this survey had moved their ML project beyond a pilot phase. Now for us, this is really daunting as our brand was so heavily, like we decided in the midst of the pandemic, our brand was so heavily focused on operationalization. So it caused us to reflect on the projects that we had individually, because we were a new team, but individually the projects that we'd have done. What were the conditions that led to a successful project? What were the conditions that led to a project that fell apart? And this was the impetus of the secret sauce. So the secret sauce is what we've coined our ingredients for successful data science, and is really a result of why we're here today in such a short period of time. The sauce has 4 ingredients. Firstly, a well-defined problem. Second, a willing stakeholder. Third, clarity concerning who or what will change. And then lastly, a level of comfort with the unpredictable nature of this work. So I've shared the recipe here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you 4 stories of projects that we've done over the past 4 years that I think are really great examples of the secret sauce at its best. So ingredient number 1, a well-defined problem. This seems obvious, but it's not good enough that you have a conceptualization of the problem. It's really important that the partner that you're working with agrees with the definition of that problem, and they see it equally in the same way that you do. I'll start with Unison, which is a project that we focused on with public safety. So the city of Edmonton, like many cities throughout Canada, are dealing with a public safety crisis. This really kicked off in the midst of the pandemic. It's a very difficult circumstance, and there was a real call for us to better integrate to tackle this issue. And I remember talking to our director of corporate security, Dean. He said, I get it. I buy into this idea that we need to be better integrated in order to confront this issue of public safety, but I only see my data. Or specifically, he said, I see my dots on the map. If I'm to be effective, if I'm to collaborate with others, I need to see everybody's data. I need to see everybody's dots on the map. And this was the impetus or the definition of the problem that led to Unison. So Unison is our Made in Edmonton public safety deployment project. These things are a dime a dozen, of course. Predictive policing, it's not new, it's not novel, but there's a few things that separate Unison from the pack. Fundamentally, it's its philosophy. The philosophy of Unison is that the best way to bring people together, the best way to bring process together, is to start with data integration. For Unison, of course, the data is the lifeblood of these projects. We've assembled the largest public safety database in the history of our organization. So every day, we're pulling in calls for service. So what I mean by that is just public demand. So anytime the public picks up the phone, and calls one of these organizations. Everything from our police service, everything from our internal enforcement teams, from our universities, and from private industry as well. Just a quick note on the data. Everything in the slides that follow focuses on 3 data elements. What was the incident? When did it happen? And where did it happen? We've stripped out all personally identifiable information very intentionally from the perspective of privacy and ethics. This work is, I think, rightfully subject to criticism right now, so we wanted to make sure that we were building it thinking about privacy by design. So that's a lot of data. You have to do a few things to make sense of it. So Unison didn't create this data, but this is the first time that it's been consolidated. So we brought it all together in one place. We then made it common and consistent. So the police are different than social services agencies, social services different than fire, but what everybody has in common is time, type, and location. So that's exclusively what we're focusing on. We then secured the data to make sure that only those with intended access do have access. We've subjected it to a data ethics review and a privacy impact assessment. It's subject to really good data governance. And finally, the whole process is automated so that we're running predictions every morning with no intervention from my team. And the result is Unison. So if you think of a giant umbrella, there's 2 tools that fall underneath that umbrella, Decide by Unison and Track by Unison, and I'll walk you through both of those now. So Decide by Unison is an interactive heat map that allows partners to make really good decisions about where they deploy their resources. And by resources, I mean people, but I also mean things like CCTV cameras. The color here in this stained glass-looking grid system denotes the probability of a call. So we're not predicting severity, just the likelihood that something's going to happen, and we're predicting against these categories you see here. So everything from violent crime, etc. Keep in mind, this isn't one organization's perspective. This is a holistic perspective on what our demand looks like. Track by Unison is an accompanying tool. This is very simple by intention. What we're doing is looking at, in aggregate, what are the trends at the neighborhood level. So the question we want to answer here for the organizations we're working with is your intervention having the desired effect? Are we seeing calls going down, or are we seeing going up? This has been a wildly popular product, so we deployed this internally, but because of the attentiveness to privacy and ethics, the city made a decision that we can actually democratize access for free. So we treat this as a public service, and we've deployed it to over 20 partners now. So now you have 20 organizations, both inside of our corporation and outside, who use this every day to make decisions about how they deploy their resources. This is a great project, but it would not have happened if we started chasing a solution. It really happened because of that first ingredient, the well-defined problem. On to ingredient 2, a willing stakeholder. This is fundamentally important. I think that it's not difficult to get an executive sponsor. It's not difficult sometimes to find money. What you need is somebody who is equally invested in a project, somebody who's going to roll up their sleeves, work with you, and make it an operational success. And when I think about a willing partner, immediately what comes to mind is our house inspectors. So these are the circumstances that we try to avoid in Edmonton, and we do this one way by doing inspections at the beginning of the home building process to look for deficiencies and flag them. For context, we're going through an absolute housing boom right now. This was a very recent article that shows that housing starts in our city are up 50%. And for each one of these houses, we do a number of different inspections, looking at HVAC, looking at plumbing, etc. Now, the issue is that not all risks are created equal. And there's some houses with major deficiencies, and there's some houses that aren't. And this put us in a situation historically where we were under-mitigating the ones that had serious concerns, or maybe we were over-mitigating those where there was no concern, and we knew that there wouldn't be any deficiencies found. To support this work, we took over 600,000 inspections, so 10 years of data, fed it to an ML model, and the result is we're able to predict with a high degree of certainty those houses that are likely to pass on the first inspection. The result of this one has been incredible. It's been operationalized since 2019. Every year, our inspectors now drop almost 1,700 inspections. So that's 1,700 that they were evaluating before. Thanks to working with our team, they're not doing it. This year, we hit a milestone, over $500,000 in cost avoidance, and it's won a couple of different awards. Really great project. Wouldn't have happened, though, if it wasn't for these house inspectors who really stepped up, saw the value of data science, saw the value of it operationalized with their business, and were really willing to work with us to make it a success. Ingredient number 3, comfort with unpredictable results. This is just the risk of innovation. It's the risk of trying something new. And we really make this clear when we're working with somebody to ensure that the expectations are set and that they're appropriate. If you want a high degree of certainty, if you want a very specific deadline, we're not your team. The majority of time we're trying something that hasn't been tried. So this isn't to disappoint the stakeholder you're working with. It's just making sure that expectations are clear, that this stuff it's complicated, it's novel, and it's not a Fordist assembly line. So there, you just have to set expectations and make sure that you're both on the same page. For this, I would look to potholes. So largely because of our temperature fluctuation, we have a lot of damage to our infrastructure, particularly holes in the road, or what we refer to as potholes. Our pothole crew, our infrastructure crew, came to us and said, we really want to prioritize differently. And we have a specific idea. We want sensors deployed on all of our trucks. So we said, okay, Internet of Things, it's interesting, we can look at that. Then we looked at it and we're like, we don't really think that's going to work out. And they said, well, we respond to 311 complaints from the public. Could you prioritize based on the volume of 311 complaints? And we looked at, and I don't think that's going to work out either. They said, well, what about aerial imagery? So twice a year we get photographs of the top of our city. Could we looked at the data and we're like, well, it's kind of hard to distinguish. Is that a pothole? Is that a garbage bag? I don't know if this is going to work out. What we ended up with, the final approach, has really worked well for us. It's because of their level of flexibility and just willing to work with us and understanding that this work is unpredictable and can be kind of messy. For context, this is our crew here. Respond to complaints from the public. They also do proactive repairs, and this number is just staggering to me. 750,000 holes in the road they fixed in 2021. So this is a very, very busy team. Like Unison, a really well-defined problem. This is just a matter of supply and demand. So you have infrastructure that's outpacing, you have demand that's outpacing supply. So this is just about, how do we prioritize based on this volume and based on our staffing realities. But not complicated. There's varying perspective on this. Climate change is making it worse, and it is an issue that is getting a lot worse, not easier. But really made the difference in this one was working with somebody who was flexible, somebody who really bought in the open communication and the honesty, and that's where we moved through 3 different iterations and then landed on something that worked really well for the team. And what we ended up with is actually not a project, but a program. So we were able to consolidate all of their data, and we're doing predictions based on anticipated demand. We're also flagging duplicates. And if you can believe it, actually, when we started this project, they were looking at at 311 calls from the public and then referencing them on a paper map. So this has completely transformed their business. So much so they've actually had our crew out fixing potholes with them. It's really fundamentally shifted how we deal with infrastructure repairs at the city. Would not have happened if they were set on a solution and what it would look like. So their level of flexibility was really fundamental in transforming that business. This is one of the biggest partners that we have at the city, and this project's really changed all that they do. All right, this is the last ingredient. Clarity concerning who or what will change. This I'm an absolute stickler on. This is a non-negotiable. We like to think about how a project is operationalized at the end, but for our team, we want clarity on operationalization before we kick it out. Well, this is great. Like this is exciting work. But if we pull it off, who or what's going to change about your business operationally? We have them commit to that, and we actually have it committed at a very high level to make sure that the insight is going to be actioned, which is really the topic of the talk. For this, this is an awful story that happened a couple of years ago, where our organization was defrauded. It was an inside job. $1.6 million to city employees. Very alarming for the city. And as a result of this, our team was contacted by the city auditor and said, we need to have the tools in place to prevent this from happening again, to flag transactions that are, could be fraudulent, to flag transactions that could be duplicate. So for this, we pulled in 1.4 million purchase order and non-purchase order transactions, almost 900,000 credit card transactions back to 2015. And then we applied 21 different risk factors to each one of those transactions, including things like Bedford's Law. And the result of that is, it's a pretty straightforward dashboard, but every day we're pulling in every transaction at the city of Edmonton, and then evaluating it based on those 21 risk factors, and then looking at ones that should be evaluated. Not all of them are fraudulent. Maybe just any circumstance where something is of alarm, something should be followed up with. This is straightforward so far, but really what was powerful about this project was this commitment at the beginning. So even before we started the project, we had the city auditor saying, we will commit to alert monitoring, we will commit people, and in the event that there is a mistake, it wasn't something nefarious, we'll do education and follow-up. And this is a project that, for every transaction still at the city of Edmonton, it's subject to this, and we've had some really incredible results. If we would have built a dashboard and we weren't clear on who or what will change, this could have just been a product that collected dust. But because we had this commitment, because we had this clarity at the onset, it was fundamental to the success of the project. So there's the secret sauce: a well-defined problem, a willing stakeholder, clarity concerning who or what will change, and a level of flexibility with the unpredictable results of innovation. But that's not all. So for each of our projects, we also have project prioritization. I shared that. We evaluate that. It's actually 5 Gartner criteria about making money, saving money, et cetera. We look for very high-level executive sponsorship so that we have buy-in. The best is you sandwich these projects. You have buy-in on the front line, but you have a high-level executive sponsorship to make sure that it happens. And then lastly, that commitment to operationalize. This is great. I've told you a lovely story, but what are the results? What's actually happened? Why were we called Edmonton was called Canada's top public sector data science team? Well, we have 28 projects right now, executive sponsored projects that are either pending or fully sponsored, just waiting on our queue. Right now, the team is working on 9 projects concurrently, and we've deployed 65 projects, varying in size and scope, but 65 projects that have been operationalized since we were founded in 2021. And I just ran this before we hit this extraordinary milestone. Right before I came to Belgrade, 2,000 users. So this 20% of our organization looks to our product every day, whether it's deploying police, fixing potholes, detecting fraud. We have a really large user base that these solutions have become indispensable for them. This article came out just a few months ago. It's like the McKinsey article, but it actually refers to the operationalization of data science as a niche pursuit. In an era of a niche pursuit, I'm so proud to say that 90% of our projects are operationalized. So this is something based on the secret sauce, based on these extraordinary partners that we've had the pleasure of working with, we've been really able to kick the trend. So, I've said the sauce is secret, but I've given you the recipe. I've told you a bunch of stories. We are open by default as a city. I hope that you found this talk insightful. More importantly, I hope you found it actionable. And really, thank you for this opportunity. It's such a pleasure to be here in this beautiful city. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kris, for taking the time to come here to Serbia. I'm glad that you like it. I hope that you actually had some time maybe to go out and explore the city. Right now, are there any questions for Kris? Yeah, we have one over there.
Thanks for the talk. It was very interesting. My question is, how do you attract talent? Because in Europe, or at least in Slovenia, where I come from, the public sector jobs are very much underpaid compared to the private sector.
Oh, sorry. How do you what? Sorry.
How do you attract talent?
Yeah, public sector jobs relative to private industry are a real struggle for us. So we are, I fight for better wages for the team. So we actually just had that. We've created this additional class of senior data scientists. So I'm not answering your question though. How do we attract talent? The type of data scientist that we recruit is, we just have to be transparent with the distinction with private industry so that they know that the salary cap is not as significant, but it's a different type of, we're quite competitive in terms of work-life balance. You have an opportunity to, what our team finds most gratifying is to define a problem, to see it operationalized, and be able to follow that to see the result that it made. So that's a unique experience. This salary is a struggle with private industry. Like, we've lost people to Shopify, we've lost people to Google, but we've also, just this year, this is very inside baseball, but for me, we've attracted significant talent from our most prestigious artificial intelligence organization. They're actually coming to the public service because of our focus on operationalization, because they're able, so it's what we can't make up in salary, we try to make up in lifestyle. We try to make up in the ability to affect change and see it play out. Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
Any more questions? Right there in the back.
Hi, you're doing great work. Nice. Well done. My question is, how often do you have enough relevant data so that you can apply machine learning, and how often do you just fall back to like some algorithms or other approaches?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. I think it's actually, it comes back to one of the fundamentals of the team, which is what is the most pragmatic solution. So it varies project by project. I'll give you an example. Many cities are dealing with an opioid epidemic. Edmonton is not different. To support this work, we looked at demand data again, so calls to the health authority, calls to the police, but we did not have enough data to do something truly sophisticated. So what we did is we cut the city into 12,000 grids. Each grid is 250 meters by 250 meters, and then we just plotted incidents over the past 16 weeks. It's not a data science solution, or it is a model, I suppose. It's a very, very simplistic model, but we did it in a weekend, and it's been very successful in terms of it being operationalized. So I think the question of what approach we take, fundamentally we start with what is the problem, what's the most pragmatic approach, and how is it going to get operationalized? And then the subsequent question is there a role for ML? Is there a role for AI? Sometimes these projects are very simple and straightforward, and sometimes they're complex. So my answer, I suppose, is it depends. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next question. No? Well, if you do think of something later, you're free to catch up with Kris in the hallway in the expo zone. I'm sure he'll answer all of your questions. Kris, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for coming all this way.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Have a great day.